Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Woodmere State Revival. We are down at the house this weekend working around the pool, trying to get a few more things finished up in preparation for getting this pool up and operational. We're getting really close. I got to fix a couple of plumbing issues that we encountered when we were pressure testing. There's a couple of fittings that are a little bit leaky, so we've got to take them apart. They're just threaded together and apply some more Teflon tape and paste to those fittings and screw them back together. So we got to take care of that. And then I've got to run conduit for the light niche back to the pump house. And I've got to run a sensor wire from one of our skimmers back to the pump house. That is for the autofill system that we're using. It's a levelor system that automatically adds water to the pool anytime it gets below a certain level, which is pretty slick. And I got to work on the bonding grid around the pool, which is creating an equipotential bonding grid that keeps people from getting shocked. That's the real goal there. And what that does is it hooks any electric device, so the pumps and the heater and anything metallic around the pool. So the rebar that's in the core of the pool, the rebar that's around the skimmers, the base for the diving board, the anchors for the ladders, any of that stuff all gets bonded together to make sure that there's no electrical current gradient in between any of those pieces. Even the water itself gets bonded through the light niche and through the anode that we have in the pump house. So everything should be equal in electrical potential. That way nobody gets shocked at any point. So that's really important, and a lot of that stuff was missing when we first bought this house and pool. So I'm not sure what happened there, but it should have all been done originally when the pool was built, but I didn't find any trace of it as we were taking apart the old equipment, which is kind of scary. Other than that, we're just trying to get stuff tidied up and ready for paint and tile work, which is coming up very soon. The weather's been pretty nasty the last couple of days, a lot of storms moving through, so it's a muddy mess around here. So we're going to be working mostly on the interior of the pool, trying to get some things finished up here. There's no way we're going to be able to use the tractor to move sand this weekend. It's such a mud pit from all the rain and from where the guys have been working, doing some excavation around the property. Let me show you where we're starting out and give you an idea of what we're trying to get accomplished today. So looking down in the pool, you can see all sorts of muddy water, which really sucks. We just had this pool cleaned out last weekend, but I got the pump going. I already got it pumped down about a foot, and I'll get it pumped down all the way again, and we'll clean out the bottom of the pool again. But what happened is the ditch that runs all the way around the pool, that holds all the plumbing, that ditch filled up with all the storms and everything that we had in the last couple of days, and all that water ran right over here and then went down into that open conduit, which goes into the light niche, and then down into the pool. So it was just a muddy river pouring down through that. It was a nice drain for the ditch. We had it ditched out over here, and the water was just going over the hill, but with all the work they've been doing, they laid some electric conduit down to the front gate post there, and they put some gas lines in down to the gate post for our gas lights. So with all the work and everything they've been doing, the ditch got closed off, and then there was no place for the water to go, so it just backed up and then poured down the conduit. Made a huge mess down in the bottom of the pool. But anyways, we're used to that, so I gotta get that pumped out, and then I'll be able to get down in there and get that cleaned out again. This is one of the return inlets that I gotta get sealed off. That white flange that goes against the inside of the pool is threaded, and this piece of gray PVC pipe that goes through the wall there, that was threaded. Those two pieces threaded together. I used Teflon tape to thread them together, but evidently the threads on the pipe were a little bit coarse, and it just didn't seal off altogether. So I'm going to take it apart, put new Teflon tape on there, and then apply Teflon thread sealing paste as well, and that should take care of any leaks in between those two parts. So a little bit of a pain, but better to figure out these leak issues now than down the road when everything's covered in concrete. Got the skimmer opening here. I've got to finish putting my rebar in. The reason there's no rebar here is because right here on top of the beam of the pool, you can see a plate and a bolt, a couple pieces of rebar there. I didn't realize when I was cutting the opening, when I was enlarging the opening for the new skimmer, that there was this piece of plate down in there. And that plate actually goes around the corner of the pool, so it's like a big angle brace, and there was giant bolts set in the wall. When they filled the block full of concrete, there were giant bolts set in there, and then they bolted that plate to it, and then the rebar for the beam the poured concrete beam on top was anchored to that. So there was no way I was going to cut that plate. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I had to move the skimmer box over a little bit. Well, that left this 2-inch gap here that I'm going to have to fix. So I'm going to build a form that will cover that on 3 sides, and then go ahead and pour that solid again. But before I do that, I've got to key in a couple of pieces of rebar into the beam to make sure that that's secure, and then kind of wire that together. And then over here you can see there's a piece of rebar sticking out of the top there. That goes to build this cage around the skimmer. Well, I've got to get that piece of rebar in here as well. So once I've got everything formed up, I'll go ahead and take a drill and drill through the form and put that piece of rebar in there, and that way all that stuff can kind of be wired together, and that'll make it stronger and hopefully ensure that we never have a leak or anything in that area. So got to do some work around the skimmer there. And then looking down the pool here, there's another inlet on this end that I've got to repair as well. When we put it all together, unfortunately there was evidently a defect or something in the flange in this one, and it actually cracked when we were putting tension on it, when we were installing it originally. Didn't know that until I went to pressure test everything and water started squirting out around the threads. Took it apart and found that it was cracked. So that one's got to be replaced. I got a flange on order. It should be here today. Hoping to get that replaced as well. Over here in the corner you can see the forms for our new stairs. This pool never had any steps in it. It just had a ladder on the shallow end and a ladder down here on the deep end next to the diving board. But we wanted to get some steps in the pool that we could actually use to get in and out of the pool, and we could actually use to just sit on and enjoy the water. So this is going to be really nice. The guys who are doing all of our concrete work around here, who are pouring the new front porch and doing all the concrete slabs and everything, they got that formed up for us, and that looks fantastic. Really excited to see how that turns out. But they're going to be pouring concrete on Monday, so they got to finish up the rebar there, put a few more pieces in there, and they'll be ready to get that poured. So that's going to be awesome when they get that done. I can't wait to see what that looks like. Other than that, the inside of the pool is pretty well ready for tile. If you remember last week, we did that bonding slurry all the way around the top of the pool, just under the coping there. And then we did that mud base, and that kind of filled in any gaps, any porous spots in the beam that would be under the waterline tile. So we got all that done last weekend, and that looks fantastic. So that part's ready for tile. Inside the pool, we're getting close to being ready for paint. We're gonna have to do a little sanding in a few places. There's a couple of superficial cracks here. These are just real thin, just little cracks that have occurred in the pool as the years have gone by, as it's kind of settled a little bit. So they're not leaks, they're not like structural defects. They're superficial, so we're just going to carve them out a little bit with a grinder, and then we'll come along and use some hydraulic cement and sealing caulk to seal those off. Other than that, knocking a little loose paint off in a few places, then we're ready for paint. Can't wait to see how good this place looks once we get the paint job done. So that's where we're getting started. I'm going to try to get some work done here. It's supposed to be pretty decent today. It's not supposed to rain today. But man, we've got plenty of mud to deal with. So I'm hoping we'll get some sunshine. Temperatures will come up a little bit. It was only in the 50s this morning. Unseasonably cool. But hopefully we'll get some sun on this and get this dried out so we can work a little more around here without sinking into the mire. All right, so I got the pool pumping down pretty good now. You can actually see the pump and all the nasty muddiness down in the bottom of the pool. That's lovely. All those leaves down there, those are flower petals off of that huge Coosa dogwood that used to stand right here. And as beautiful as that tree was, it dropped stuff in the pool year round. Flower petals, leaves, berries. I mean, it just made a huge mess, and it would have shaded this into the patio, something awful. It'd been mossy and moldy and mildewed and everything else, so we decided to go ahead and get rid of it. These two were far enough away that for now we're going to go ahead and keep those. We're just going to trim them back a little bit away from the patio, but unfortunately we had to lose that big guy right there. We're getting the water pump down, and I've been working on conduit. This conduit goes down here to the light niche. Got a brand new Hayward LED light that not only has white light but has all sorts of colored lights, and it's going to be electronically controlled by our pool control over there in the pump house. It's going to be pretty sweet. Kids will have fun with that. But yeah, I'm running the Conduit. The old light niche was metallic, and it had a metal conduit on the end of it. I'm going back with all plastic, so I used an adapter to go to plastic, and then poured concrete around it. Got that all set in place, and now I'm going off with a little piece that I had stubbed up there, and I'm running it back to the pump house. So I've got my first section glued in, and now I'm going to go ahead and glue in all the way around the side of the pool here and over through the main ditch and back over here into the pump house where the transformer will be mounted for the lights. So I'm making good progress on the conduit for the light niche so far. It starts right over there in the ground and then runs across here and turns the corner and then heads up this direction. I'm actually having to dig out just a little bit to lay it, because I want it to be down at least at the level of the deck jet plumbing that goes across here. That way when they get in here and start doing their earthwork and stuff, moving all this dirt and excavating for our concrete slab, they don't get into it. So I'm dropping it down a little bit as I go. That's taking a little bit longer to shovel some sand out of the way, but it's going together nicely, and ultimately it's going to give us a nice leak-proof connection all the way from the light niche all the way back to the pool house where it'll hook up to the transformer. So I'm going to keep cooking on this conduit. Just got the pool pump down for a third time. I've been kind of washing it down a little bit as it goes, and then it'll pump out again and wash it down and it'll pump out again. Just trying to get some of that mud and stuff to pump out of there rather than having to shovel it all. And it's actually cleaning up pretty good. So I'm going to get that taken care of as well. All right, so we got all of our conduit in now from the light niche all the way over here to the pump house. Run through the ditch here. We did dig it out a little bit just to give ourselves a little extra clearance. Once we start filling in over here and running equipment through here, just make sure we didn't have anything close to it. And then it comes in and just stubs up in here for now. And then I'll run another one from the skimmer right here, because we have an auto leveling water system. It's got a sensor that mounts in the skimmer, and so I'll run the wire from it through that auxiliary port there on the side of the skimmer over here into the ditch, and then also over here into the pump house. For that, since we got that done, Dad and I have been working over here on the side of the pool. When we cut out to install this skimmer over here, we got into some structural steel. There's a big plate down the bottom there, and a big nut. A bolt sticks up through there, and some rebar. And I believe that plate runs all the way around the corner over here. It's like a big piece of angle that runs over to the other side here and just kind of secures the corner. So we didn't want to take a chance and cut that when we were trying to install the skimmer, so we ended up just moving the skimmer over, cutting it over a little bit further. So we just built a form. We're going to go ahead and mix up some concrete. We drilled down into the side there, put a couple of pieces of rebar in, and then we drilled through the side of the form over there to hold the piece of rebar that goes around the skimmer. Give it some extra support once we get everything poured in place. It's running downhill now, but once the concrete hardens, I'll straighten it up and then tie everything together with some wire and run some vertical pieces of rebar down into the ground. It's going pretty good so far, isn't it, Dad?
Looks a lot better than when we started.
That is for sure. We got the deep end cleared out for the most part. Got all the mud and everything sealed up, or pumped out. And since we sealed up the niche over here, we shouldn't get any more muddy water down in the bottom. That'll be a good thing. We're going to go ahead and get our cement mixed up over there, and then pour it into our form. Get it smoothed off and set, because the masons are supposed to come back next week to go ahead and set the final two pieces of coping. This one and then the one on the other side of the pool. All right, so we got the concrete mixed up and poured in the form, and it looks really good. We floated the top of it off, got it all nice and level. And so now we got this whole corner rebuilt. You know, maybe not the worst thing that we had to do this. It was kind of chewed up here where the concrete had eroded around the old skimmer, and there were some pieces that had kind of spalled and broken loose. So maybe not the worst thing in the world that we had to do this. Now we got a nice fresh surface for mounting our coping. We've got a nice smooth surface for mounting our tile along the water line. So that'll really help to, I think, make it last in the long run. As soon as we're sure that this is all set up, we'll go ahead and pop our forms off, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and get our skimmer mounted firmly against the wall here, build the form that goes around the skimmer, and then pour the concrete around the skimmer. So we're getting real close here. All right, so I got another one of our inlets. These are called easy inlets. Another one of these things taken apart. Apparently the threads on this piece of pipe that goes through the wall and threads into the back side of this flange, apparently they're a little bit coarse. As I put several wraps of Teflon tape, PTFE tape, around that thing when I assembled it originally, and then siliconed it in place and did everything just like the instructions said. Apparently they're a little coarse because when it was under pressure, when we had 95 psi on there, water was leaking around the threads and then leaking around the back of the fitting on the pool side here. Now we're never going to have that much pressure on these things. You know, pools typically operate in the 30 to 40 psi range maybe. So yeah, I can never see where we would have that much pressure pushing on this fitting. But at the same time, it did leak, so I decided to go ahead and take it apart. And this time, doing again several wraps of the Teflon tape, but then also using the T+2 rector seal, which is made for PVC fittings. Now be careful, some of this stuff is not made for PVC fittings. Some of it is made for iron pipe and other types of galvanized and everything else. So just be careful when you look at your rector seal. Make sure you get the kind that is specifically meant for PVC fittings. Otherwise, it could deteriorate the fitting over time. It could actually eat the plastic away a little bit over time. So be careful with that. In the meantime, our concrete has been curing nicely. It's really looking good. So tomorrow I'll come down and knock the form off. And then we'll go ahead and finish building the form that goes around the skimmer. That'll anchor it solidly to the wall of the pool and give us a nice tight fit, nice waterproof fit, and it's going to be fantastic. So I'm going to get busy here, go ahead and get lots of rector seal on that fitting, get it screwed back together, and then put the silicone to it, and then go ahead and get this thing tightened back down before it gets dark. All right, as you can see, I got the return jet in the wall all back in place. Was able to use the PTFE tape and the paste and put it back together, and then fresh silicone around the outside of it, and then got everything reassembled over here on the other side. You can see the clamp bolts. That's what kind of pulls everything together. Stainless bolts, stainless plates, everything just kind of anchors it in place. So it's a pretty neat system, especially now that I got the whole leak thing figured out. But that pretty much wraps up our work in the pool for this evening. As you can see, it's getting dark, and I've got everything put away. Stuck this over top of our fresh concrete where we poured that earlier today, just in case it rains tonight. Then we get it washed out there. Let's head back to the house here. Frogs are singing happily, of course. We've had so much rain here recently that the frogs have plenty of places to hide and hang out. Tons of mud, tons of water everywhere. You can see this ditch in behind the house here where the gas line goes. I mean, it's just full of water. The good news is the guys are supposed to set the gas line in its final position, put our hookups over there for our gas grill and our gas start on our fireplace, and then get that filled in. That's all going to get graded next week, and all this is going to get graded next week. So it's really going to start to look better out here. We're going to have gravel on top of everything, and then they're going to take a tamper and go across the entire thing, get good compaction on everything, and then we'll be ready to
pour concrete. Here you can see all of our gas lines coming in together. This is the main hub that goes into the house. The meter is going to set here, and then we've got T's off of that that go down to the gas lights at the road and gas lights at the gate out there, and then of course the meter and everything here. So all this stuff is looking great. They're going to be able to get this backfilled and we'll be good to go. You can also see the outlet for the crawl space sump pump and all of our humidity that gets pulled out of the crawl space by a dehumidifier, and then all of our condensation from upstairs in the attic and the other AC unit in the crawl space will all go into that sump and get pumped out here. So we've got that plumbed in as well, looking really good there.
Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this evening. I got everything put away. It's dark outside. The frogs have started singing, so that means it's time to go home and relax. Be back down here tomorrow to do some more work around the pool. Hopefully, if the weather cooperates, I'll get some more of this stuff knocked out. We are getting closer and closer to being able to put tile up and get the paint on and then fill that sucker full of water. So that's going to be a joyous day when we get that thing filled up and take the first dunk in the pool. So we're super excited. In the meantime, the drywall crew has been busy in here. They've gotten all sorts of drywall hung throughout the house today, and they are done with the hanging. So all the drywall has been hung throughout the house. Now they've got to go back through, mostly just in the downstairs and the bonus room, and tape and mud all the joints. So they got everything hung up. The last pieces were hung in the garage today, and that's looking really good. So this place is coming together pretty quickly now that drywall is going up. So we'll circle back with you guys again tomorrow and keep you updated on all of our progress. See you real soon.